Let's get rolling. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States, to the republic, which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right. Good evening, everyone. Our first item of business today is our public hearing on the 2025 Minot Park District budget. So I would open the public hearing and open the podium for anyone who has any comments on the budget. Any comments on the 2025 budget? Anybody? All right. Seeing none, we'll close it, but maybe before we close it, we have to set a meeting before October 7th, the date, to get final approval of the budget. So what do you guys and gals think? Tuesday is October 1st. Mike, you said you're not going to be around before then for a while, right? Is there any issue with that October 1st? Do we want to move it to a different day? Good on the 1st? If we did October 1st at 4 o'clock? All right. You can do it whenever you want. You want to do it at 8 a.m.? What do you think? 3 o'clock? 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock or before? Is that the 31st? 30th? I don't know how many days are in September. You will or won't? Being selfish. Well, be selfish. Let's go. Yeah. Let's do the 30th then. Is that okay? So how about September 30th at 1 o'clock? Picking a number. All right. September 30th, 1 o'clock. That works for you. Let's see. Okay. 1 p.m. for our final budget meeting. All good? You don't have to do anything else for the public hearing? All right. Well, then I close it. Perfect. Okay, well, let's continue on with our normal board meeting. We'll start with personal appearances. Any personal appearances? Go for it. Oh, we're doing the audit. Perfect. That's way too personal if it's an audit. Sorry about that.
Okay. I thought I had to wait till after personal appearances, but apparently I can just go.
This is perfect.
Good evening. I'm Mindy Piatz from Brady Marts, and we'll be going over the audit results for the Park District. We performed the audit of the Park District for the year ended 12/31/2023. So tonight we'll go over just a high-level overview of the reports and the opinions we issued as part of the audit, a high-level overview of the financial statement highlights, and then some additional required items that we're required to communicate with the board upon completion of our audit. So beginning with the overall audit opinion, as part of the audit, we do have guidelines that we have to follow as part of the audit by our professional standards and also by North Dakota Century Code. And so we conducted the audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And the objective of the audit is to obtain reasonable assurance, not absolute, that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. I'd also add that a financial audit isn't designed to detect fraud. However, we do look at fraud and consider that as part of the audit, but that would be a separate audit if you were specifically looking just for fraud. As far as our audit opinion issued on the overall financial statements, we expressed an unmodified opinion which is the highest level of assurance that we provide on the financial statements, meaning that they are in accordance with GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. And then in addition, because the audit's conducted underneath government auditing standards, we also are required to issue a report on internal control and compliance. And so as part of that, we look at the Park District's internal controls as a basis for designing our audit procedures. We don't give an opinion on internal controls, but if we become aware of any kind of deficiencies, we are required to communicate those in that letter. Overall, it's an unmodified opinion, which is again a clean opinion. However, we did note 2 findings in that report. The first one relates to journal entries. So as part of the audit, we did propose a few material journal entries. And so that's deemed to be a deficiency in the internal control, because management should be detecting all of those items and properly recording them. And I don't remember the exact entries. There was a few items that came up. Yeah, so this is a new finding. This one did not exist last year, but I believe the Park District has had it in prior years, just not last year's audit. And then the second finding relates to segregation of duties, which is a repeat from last year. Essentially, there's just not enough staff to separate all the duties. In an ideal world, you'd have custody, record keeping, authorization, and reconciliation all separate. And there's just not enough duties. So although the board being active and reviewing financial statements certainly helps mitigate it, it doesn't eliminate that threat. So just make sure that you're asking questions and understanding the financial information, because you do play an important part in helping mitigate any kind of fraud or potential fraud going on. Next, we'll move on to some financial highlights. So this is broken out by fund, and it's the cash and investment balances by fund, comparing 2022 to 2023. Overall, you'll see that cash is up about $3.8 million year over year. The bulk of that is in the general fund, well, in the foundation. So the foundation's up about $2.7 million for the year, and then the general fund, which would be on the far left, is up about $866,000, and then the debt service fund is up $420,000. Looking at the revenues and expenses by fund, so the blue graph represents the revenues, green represents expenses, and then the aqua is other financing sources, which includes proceeds from the sale of debt, transfers coming in and out of each fund. You'll see that overall for the general fund, there was an increase. When you take all those together, it was an increase in fund balance. 13.7 million of expenditures was covered by about 12.1 million of revenues, and then there was $2.8 million coming from other financing sources for the general fund, which the bulk of that was for the new sale of the bonds, and then there was also a transfer coming in. Moving on to total general fund expenditures. So for fiscal year 2003, total expenditures were 13.6 million. That represents about 3.34% of the general fund balance, which is fairly decent. I know other park districts I work with, they try to have their fund balance in the general fund built up a little bit more, so it's maybe about 10%. So it's a little lean, but still having enough money coming in to pay the bills. The largest expense is park operations, which is in the darker blue color. That's about 7.8 million, or 58%. And then the aqua is payments made by the general fund for debt. So the debt principal of about 3.2 million, representing about 24%, or a quarter of the total expenditures. And then the green is for recreational activities at 1.8 million, or about 14%. Next, looking at that fund balance. So as of 12/31, the general fund ended at a fund balance of about 4.1 million, and that is up from last year. The debt service and capital projects funds, those ones generally remain flat, because if they get money, it's for a specific project, and then as that money it goes out for the project. But the foundation also had a large increase. They're close to about 4 million in fund balance as of the end of the year. Next, looking at future debt payments. So this would be all the debt that has been obligated by the Park District as of 12/31. You can see The total future payments on the right-hand side, that does include principal and interest payments. And towards the end, the payments don't really increase. It's because we're combining 5 years at a time, and that follows the presentation and the notes to the financial statement. But as of December 31st, general obligation bonds balanced about $6.6 million. Revenue bonds were at $6.2 million. Special assessments, $7.8 million. And then the contract for deed was approximately $714,000. And then the last two liabilities relate to leases, and the last one is an IT leases or contracts. That was a new standard that was implemented this last year, but that was only $6,000. So. Next, looking at budget versus actual for the general fund. So revenues are over on the left. Budget is in the blue color and actual is in the green. So you can see that both for revenues, those came in over budget by about $501,000. On the expenditure side, those came actually under budget by about $45,000. Good control by management, making sure that they were adhering to that budget. And then the far right just represents sales of the bonds and transfers coming in and out, which aren't budgeted for. And then lastly, just going over some items that we're required to communicate with you upon completion of our audit. The first one is in regards to estimates. So there are estimates for the financials. And examples would be the depreciation, the lives and methods used to calculate depreciation, how the net pension liability is calculated, the other post-employment benefit liability is calculated. At times, the Park District also receives donated assets, so valuing those and getting those properly on the books. And so we do look at those, however, they weren't deemed to be significant or sensitive where there's a lot of management manipulation that could happen with them. But if there would be, we would be doing additional testing around those. As part of the audit, we didn't note any unusual transactions. We had no difficulties with management in getting information and conducting the audit. I would also highlight that there were uncorrected misstatements. So as part of our audit, if we come across differences as part of our testing, we track those in total. Make sure that at the end of the day, when we take them all together, they don't cumulatively misstate the financials. And they didn't, but those entries were not recorded and reflected in the financial statements. And there was just one entry that related to tax revenue that was not material, and so it was just ran through the current year, and an entry wasn't recorded for that. Also, as part of the audit, at the end of the audit, we do request representations from management, just them asserting that they've given us full access to all the information that we've requested, and that everything's recorded in accordance with GAAP, according to their knowledge. And so they did sign a letter stating all of that as part of the audit. And then we are also not aware that they've consulted with another audit firm or another accountant. And that really comes into play, I guess, if we would, for example, give them a different opinion and they don't like our opinion, and they maybe go find somebody else that would give them an opinion, a different opinion, we're required to let you know about that. But none of those items happened. And then the last item to go over, we did issue a separate management letter. So these were just some items that we came across as part of our audit procedures that don't necessarily rise to the level of being a deficiency and being reported as a finding, but they are recommendations for improvements in the Park District. So the first one is just adding a process for review of the bank recs. So to just help with the segregation of duties, having somebody review the bank rec to make sure there's not like a plug of $1 million or weird items going on there. So it's a pretty easy one to implement, just having a second set of eyes check it. The second item is on the bank rec. When we were testing it, we noted there's multiple items that in total they all add to 0, but there's a lot of pluses and minuses, and a lot of that's cleanup, and I'm not sure within the accounting system how you clear those out, but we just recommend looking into that so that those are all cleared out, so that the bank rec truly only has outstanding items as you're reconciling items. And then the last one, looks like I have a typo here, guys. So we did have a new standard this year that we implemented, an audit standard that required us to do a little bit deeper dive on internal controls and IT. And so as part of our IT review, we became aware that there isn't really a risk assessment or process for IT. And so we would just recommend management implementing an IT risk assessment, making sure backups are done, passwords are changed, just things like that to think about for where there's a potential for that something could happen. So that is all I have for the audit, unless anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Mindy. Any questions?
I just have one. Going back to, you talked about our reserve. There's not really a standard for what our reserve should be, or what is there a max reserve we can have, or is there?
I'm not sure if there's a max. I know there's like limits within code for there's guidelines for how you go about the budget, and that you have to consider certain items as part of the budget. I think the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, they have a recommendation. I believe that's usually is expenditures are about 10 to 15% of total. The budget, the fund balance is 10 to 15% of total expenditures. So you don't, as a public entity, you don't want to be having too much carryover, but yet you want enough to, if something should happen like COVID, that's a good example, be able to still pay your bills. I think it's important just to keep that in mind as you go through the budget process. If that's something that you want to look at, is increasing that fund balance over time to get to maybe a little bit better financial position so that the district can warrant tougher times in case something happens. But there's no requirement by Century Code or anything for what it should be. I just know with other park districts that I work with, they are a little bit higher than what the Minot Park district is going, which I believe we talked about last year. So, and I don't know too if that went into the last year's budget, because there was an increase last year in the general fund of I think like $400,000.
And so we're at what percentage did you say we were ended the year at then?
3.34 or which I don't remember what it was last year. 3.34 is what it ended up being.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
You seem to have no major recommendation. We're doing pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and I know we had a couple findings this year. The one regarding segregation of duties, that's in a lot of park districts just because it typically is a staff of maybe 1 to 2 people. And the journal entries, I mean, it was just one item that caused that finding. So, I mean, I think you can have trust in that the financial information that you're getting on a monthly basis is good and accurate. A lot of these entries that get posted at the end of the year are governmental specific accounting items that just keep coming out with new changes and keeping up. It can be a lot, but yeah, overall it was a very clean audit. And I want to thank Callan and his team and Ellie too for making a smooth process. Get done in time.
One recommendation I had was turning reconciliation and someone else.
Well, not doing it. It would, I believe Callan, you do it right now. So because he has control over a lot of the finances, he could still do them because it's almost, you have to know the system and how to do it. But just having a second set of eyes look through the bank recs to make sure there's not, plugs or miscellaneous items, that the items flowing through on the bank rec are really legit items for checks and money coming in, if that makes sense. And that could be, that could be Ellie, that could be, a secretary who has, some level of knowledge in the office. It doesn't have to be somebody within the accounting department, just another set of eyes to help deter any kind of.
It's just a dual control type thing.
Yeah.
Is that new?
Is what?
Is that new?
Yeah, the management letter items at the end are all new this year. We did not issue that last year, and that's part of our standards changing and us requiring to do a little bit deeper dive on some of those internal controls this last year. But again, it's not significant that it would rise to, that we feel it would rise to a material misstatement, that it would be reported as a finding. The management letter is more of just housekeeping recommendations for you to consider. And if you want to do them, great. If you don't, that's your choice.
we seeing, or you seeing more risk assessment or risk policy that coming back to us that made aware of by you?
You mean within the park district of items to look at, or other
Just
compared to
in
other
general from
entities?
regulation coming
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on about looking at, I mean, everybody's all about policies, but policy's only as good as it being followed. So keep that in mind. But the last one regarding IT, that is a potential risk, just looking at data loss. If your system went down, could you back up everything? Who has control to the information? Is it the right people? There's a lot to consider with IT. And if nobody's looking at it, it is really a risk just because of things that have gone on with businesses being hijacked and stuff.
Okay. Anything else? Great. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
Appreciate it. And Kellen, good job. Appreciate it. All your work with it. We'll continue on. Mr. Ackerman, do you want to grab the mic and knock out the MI7 update?
Good evening, everybody. Ryan Ackerman here on behalf of this presentation coming up. Just give you an update here on the various activities associated with the Mouse River Enhanced Flood Protection Project. Got our summary table here of all the different contracts that are currently on our radar. I'll just kind of run through some of these things. As stated previously, the tree removals, MI6A and MI7A, that work is complete. MI6B, this is the flood control piece from the Roosevelt Park Pool and west into downtown. Bids were opened for that project on September 10th. The Joint Board is currently reviewing those bids. They did not come in as favorable as they did for the rebid of MI6. So no action taken yet. The Joint Board is going to consider that likely at its October meeting. Whether that moves forward this year or we rebid it in the spring.
Can I ask a question right there?
Yeah.
If it wasn't awarded, that doesn't affect the stuff that has been to the east, right? You can still, it doesn't have to be done in order.
No,
Yeah. Okay.
good question. It doesn't need to be built in order. Ultimately, to function, we need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
in terms of the sequencing of when activities happen. Actually, the work MI7, some of that work needs to happen before certain work 6, so it's sequenced backwards. With regard to the monument relocations, we've got most of the monuments in storage, as you know. The Teddy Roosevelt statue, we've awarded a contract change order to Matson Construction, and they're going to start the construction of the new foundation for the Teddy statue probably within the next couple of weeks. And the intent is to get Teddy relocated by the end of October. So that work will likely start here like a couple of weeks. Some other, minor construction activities here. We're looking at a tentative start on MI7D. That's the concession stand, the Discovery Barn relocation camel exhibit. The initial focus here is going to be on that Discovery Barn relocation, with the intent of getting that building moved by the end of October. So there'll be some work that's going on there. Currently, there's some work associated with some fencing and things like that to be able to accommodate that move. MI7E, this is the big flood control piece that has been awarded thus far to Wegner Construction. We had a pre-construction meeting last week with that contractor and learned a little bit more about their schedule. There wasn't a lot of detail shared with us. They haven't fully developed the detailed construction schedule yet, but they did identify 3 activities that are going to be ongoing in the relatively near future. They're looking to get started in about 2 weeks. Those activities will be grinding down the stumps that remain after the tree removal. The second piece would be constructing another pre-consolidation pile to get some settlement out of the way at one of the flood wall to levee transitions. This would be in the vicinity of the current bathroom by the pickleball courts. Be another pile placed there. They'll also be able to take down the pile that is currently there. Settlement, our geotechnical engineers have been observing and monitoring that settlement. It's now settled to the point where we need it to be, and we can take that earth pressure off of there. They can basically take that pile and move it to another location. The last piece that they're going to start is placement of riprap along the river channel. And that's primarily going to happen from the zoo and north. Okay, so from, through what I would just call Roosevelt Park proper, and not into the zoo. The zoo activities will happen next year. So we did learn a little bit there. MI7F. This is the Magic City Express building and also the restrooms. Construction is underway on those buildings. The footings and foundations have been excavated for the Magic City Express building. Matson Construction is working on that. We've got designs that are progressing for the new zoo exhibits. We'll wait on bidding those until we have a little bit better clarity with regard to when schedules are all going to work out, so we don't have contractors on top of each other. And then, of course, the demo of the North American exhibits is probably several years down the road here. So just very quickly go over sorry. I buzzed right past that. Let's see. Well, tell you what, we're not going to go over the drone video. There's a little bit to see there, but not a whole lot. I kind of told you about it. But what you're going to see is excavation happening for the Magic City Express building. You're going to see the trees that have been cleared out to accommodate the Discovery Barn relocation, and we've been coordinating with Ellie and Jared and the team with regard to kind of sequencing of different contractor operations. One of them was held off the contractor on starting on the restroom excavation, new restroom excavation, until the pickleball tournament last weekend was held. So, and that, obviously not a big deal there. So, few upcoming dates here, or maybe, milestones a little bit here. We've relocated some of the playground equipment out to the Public Works building temporarily. I mentioned we excavated for the Magic City Express building. Excavation for the restroom is likely to be this week. Weather pending. Looking at next week potentially for the Discovery Barn. I mentioned we're working on some temporary fencing there since we will be inside. We need to get that in place before that work again. And then I also mentioned we're going to be moving the Teddy statue likely toward the end of October. So there's a few little pieces that are starting to move here, but it'll really be next spring when the real action is going to start here. So we're kind of starting to get a little bit of momentum built. And the contractors are getting organized. They'll continue to get organized and coordinated throughout the winter. And then it's going to be a shotgun start in the spring. We'll be into full production. Taking us a while to get there, but we're moving. In terms of anticipated disruptions, really nothing major to report. We've been coordinating with the team here. Mentioned the excavations that are happening. We've got orange contractor fencing around there to try and keep them safe. And obviously, if anybody sees anything that's out of the ordinary, you don't think it's safe, please say something. We're diligent, but I'll be honest, we're not perfect. We don't catch everything every minute. So if you see something that's out of whack, feel free to give me a call, or anybody on our team, for that matter. And then I also mentioned that we're going to be, working in that area east of the bear exhibit to accommodate relocate. I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions? All right. Appreciate you being here again.
Thanks.
Thank
The
you.
only thing I would note in relation to Ryan's presentation is I am working with Sabrina from their office as a press release about upcoming stuff. We know some of it's going to happen sooner, some of it's going to happen later. Just kind of over and all is, hey, you're going to see stuff move down the line. We'll hopefully have that out in the next.
And just one additional piece that I didn't touch on, President Olson, is that we had a meeting today with internally with our design teams, working through some issues with the National Park Service as it relates to conversion of LWCF encumbered lands. We're really going to get into the weeds here if we keep on using all the acronyms here. But basically, we need to tag a piece of property that would replace the area that we're impacting with flood control. So through Roosevelt Park and the zoo, we're impacting about 13 acres or so. And we need to identify 13 new acres elsewhere within the city and have that land appropriately encumbered so that basically we are taking care of those impacts. We've learned a little bit more about what the Park Service is going to expect the next. We've discussed the city of Minot land, and there's some nuances there that we're going to need to work through. I think ultimately we can achieve the vision that we've all talked about, but it's going to require a little bit of work and planning. So as we learn.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's move on with our meeting minutes from August 20th.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Bills of $1,333,534.97.
Bills is read.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Discussion? Callan?
Hubda.
Yeah.
Hammer.
Yes.
Kirkhammer. Schmidt.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Salaries of $481,760.48.
Move to.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Callan?
Hubda. Hammer.
Yes.
Kirkhammer. Schmidt.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Into the financials. Callan, anything to talk about? Or
Yeah.
Perfect.
Last meeting,
Oh, yeah.
are going to pay track, which they'll have to card reader. Have a couple of capital items. Once those are processing. Had discussions with the other around the area at our conference last week.
Excellent. Sounds good. Any questions for Callan?
One, Callan, having heard the audit now, I just was curious about your reaction. Been through this. Obviously, are primarily.
I thought it's fair. The couple of notes we got are some different ones. You know, the segregation of duties, I think we've accomplished now. We'll leave that up to the auditor judgment for the 24 audit. And then the proposed entry that they had was just basically some weird nuances with when we received cash on some of our reimbursement expenses, like that had to do with flood control was one of them. Another one with the Mesa hockey boards, just when we got that cash, they didn't agree with that. We should be recording it as a receivable within the funds, but we could on the actual government-wide statement. So it was, yeah, a little odd, but no, it's fine.
Sounds good. The audit sounded good, and that's really important. And I appreciate your staying on top. Kelly and the staff to do that. We got a lot of numbers to work with, and we got to know. Be on top.
Thank you.
Anything else for Callan? All right, let's go to department reports. Jared, kick us off.
Right, Park Board President Commissioners, just a couple updates to my submitted report. Paving projects, auditorium, the north lot. They were supposed to start the second lift yesterday, but with the weather, that's going to push them off a couple days. But I would think they'll be done paving by the end of the week. And depending on the striping company, it might be striped by the end of the weekend. Then we can transition everything from back to normal for the court and everything as soon as that happens. Shields Complex, they're currently striping it tonight. So, you know, they may finish tonight. So we should hopefully be able to open that by the end of the week if everything continues to go in that direction. Bison Trail parking lot, took a walk through on Friday. Pretty much substantially completed right now. Waiting for Verendry to bore the electrical line to charge the light poles, and then handicap or the big yellow covers for the bollards in the parking lot. So again, as soon as that happens, we should open that lot up. So those are moving along real nice. Optimist soccer complex, the drainage. Again, they were going to start this week on working on the drainage on that northwest corner. But then with the rain, it delayed them a few days. So again, dry enough, they'll start working on the rerouting of the drainage. And we'll continue to do a few of those other improvements that we've been working on. So I would answer any questions this time.
Who was doing that work up at the Optimus Park?
Davidson Construction.
Okay.
And we're doing some of the work, but they're doing the main excavating and placing the pipe. We're doing some hauling of material and things like that to keep the cost down.
Anything else for Jared? Yeah. Thanks, Jared.
Okay.
Steve, of course.
I'm going to, this fall, I'll go through the golf course with Mike, see any projects that he might deem to be critical for next year for the new guy. And I got a text from the golf coaches. They want to do any projects this fall to help the golf course, maybe paint the bathrooms, the older bathrooms, and kind of clean them up for next year. So everything's going good. The golf course is still in great shape. Getting a lot of compliments on the golf course, so that's huge. So.
Any questions for Steve? All right. Thanks, Steve. Mike, I thought you were retired. You're back.
Not yet.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no. The only thing I need to add to my report is I would like to thank my grounds crew. They did a well-deserving job this year, made my job easier with them. So I just wanted to give them courtesy of that. Because we were the 50-plus crew this year for a little bit. So had a great season.
Anything for Mike? How much rain did you get yesterday? Right. Zoo, Jared, you handling that? Anything? No? Okay. Gotcha. Mesa? Bab?
Just two things. We started our Pepsi ice install on Monday, and then we hope to be skating on October 3rd, and then first games will be the 4th and 5th. So got to rally the staff for one more. I'll be 3 ice installs this year, so that's usually one more than we usually do. So we'll get the guys rallied for one more and get that in and be ready to go for the season. And then just 2 thank yous. If you haven't been to the West Rink or concessions, please get over. Ben Goodman and his staff, Goodman Electric, West Rink looks totally different. You know, if I could ever get my boards and glass, I'll be a happy camper because the lights have totally changed that rink and looks like a brand new rink. So his staff just did a fantastic job, and the lights have went from this size to about the size of your hand. So it's just really cleaned up our roof too, as far as the light fixtures. And then they also did the concessions, and that really is added light in that part of the building as well. So just thank them for their work and their upgrades. And then I also want to thank, in lieu of that, the Mesa board for providing the funding for both those projects. And there's some things that Jared and I are working with that board for future projects as well. So it's just good use of the concession money that goes back into the facility for all user groups. So thank all the board members for providing that funding for us. So other than that, I'll entertain any questions.
I got a stupid question. Do you have to take ice out once a year? Like, is that like part of like the Pepsi? Does it come out? Always feels like me. I don't play hockey. Like it was like it's out, and then like 3 weeks later, Larry McFall's hockey report on Facebook is telling me that it's going back in.
Yeah, President Olson, this, if we didn't have new logos going in, and then our creases, you know, just that one being the showcase rink, we like to paint and make it look good, but we do have some logos, and of course Pepsi changed their logos, so we do have to do
Not
that.
a complaint.
And we're not skilled enough to burn out logos without the ice completely going out, but Simcoe does like coming in to do an overall with our agreement that we have. Yeah, and so it's good for them to have the plant completely off to do all their changing of belts and oil and grease and all that kind of
Can
stuff.
they do that? Can you put different logos on just in little spots?
You can, yes. Yeah. I'm not saying we couldn't do it, but we're worried that we might burn the white underneath and that. But yeah, you can do it. Yeah, it's and then of course the deck rink, we have the underfloor issue that we have to have out to keep the frost without having to buckle the concrete. So that one we do have to take out. And then the west rink is usually a 3 to 4 year that we keep in. This year with the condensing tower, we had to take it out. So
I'd like to be done with your questions.
Yeah, you got a dumb question like
No, I don't have a dumb question. I just have to congratulate our newest inductee, the North Dakota Amateur Hockey Hall of Fame, Bob Gillen, who was just inducted in. So congratulations, Bob. Great honor shows what you've done with hockey throughout the North Dakota. So thank you.
thank you again for being on the nomination committee. They surprised me. I'm the chairman of the committee, and they did it behind my back 6 months ago. But I got the call the other day, so I just very hasn't even hit me yet. But just want to thank this group for allowing me to be involved with those groups as well. And so do my job here. But it's been 34 years, so a lot of great people I've met, that's for sure, and events and people and places I've gotten to go, and just very thankful and honored.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. You're right. That wasn't a dumb question. That was good. All right. Thanks. Horticulture, Shannon.
I don't have much to add. We're kind of winding down for the season. We'll be getting ready to pull flower beds shortly, bringing some plants back into the greenhouse and getting ready for the off season. So it's right around the corner.
Thanks for putting the update on number of games in there.
Yeah, it was busy.
Kind of cool to see.
Very busy.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. That was impressive.
Forestry, Troy.
Well, emerald ash borer has been found in North Dakota. As you see in my report, it's south of Jamestown. They found it at a rest stop of all places. They're not sure how it got there. If somebody was camping, brought camping wood there or something. The state feels they have it contained. They took all the ash trees down within a 2-mile area of the rest stop, and then did sampling testing of the trees that they were taking down. So we'll find out more next year, I guess, when they do more trapping and see if it has spread anywhere else. But it has not been found in Minot, so we're clear. We got clear bill of health this year, so that's good. And I'd like to thank my staff, who there's quite a few of them here actually tonight, because without them, I couldn't do my job. So thank you. That's all I have. Unless you have any questions for me.
No, we advertise the boulevard planting. Do a lot of people still take advantage of that?
Yeah, there's some trickling in. I actually sold 2 trees today for it, and then yeah, the more people see us out planting, then that's when it starts picking up again. So yeah, yep. Fall's a good time to plant. So you have better survival rates in the fall than in the spring. So
awesome. Anything for Troy? All right, thanks. Let's go. Is Tom not here? Anne.
We've moved into all our fall programming now. We have switched our youth cross country meets to Moose Park this year. So we came up with some new trails over at Moose Park, and we had our first meet last Monday, and it was really great. It's kind of fun to have a new course and seem to like it. So Moose will work out good.
Any questions for Anne? All right. Thanks, Anne. And I don't see Mark tonight either. So I think we're good there. All right, let me get back. Let's get back to new business. We've done the audit. So number 2, special assessment bond resolution for 2024. Alan, is that you?
Yep. So we have 5 resolutions to approve. We'd be looking at a $2,625,000 bond that will take care of the pool project.
Say that number again. I'm sorry.
$2,625,000. And so that will take care of the pool project funding, the Mesa roof, and then in discussions with our bonding agent, they recommended that we look at a refinance of the Mesa land contract. And so that is included in that as well. So we have 5 resolutions. One is an approved to request the request for improvements. Second is approving engineer's report. Then we have just creating the assessment district. Fourth is the sale of the bonds, and then finally is the issuance of the bond. So we approve all of these, then they'll take it to sale, and probably end up doing a special meeting to approve the sale before we get the funds available.
But we need to take action tonight to get all that rolling.
Yep, to approve these 5.
Gotcha. All right.
And then also add in there too, there is a little bit of cushion built into this funding with the potential for a building maybe needed for the new pool filter. So our bonding company is going to build in an early call option. So if you need that money, pay it out and take advantage of not paying the interest.
Is the existing filter building like just to the west of the pool? Is that what that old?
Just like a shed. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioners, what say you?
He's assuming that we'll probably be about 4.25 to 4.5.
The good news is rates are certainly going in a good direction for us on that right now. I mean, I bet he built that in with his guess, but
yeah, well, he may have been conservative on it too.
Yeah.
So he usually, so we might get better than that.
Fed meets this week.
Yep.
Tomorrow they should announce something's happening. So the refinance of the Mesa land kind of stretches things out, right? And that helps the budget, 2026 budget.
Yeah, so it will significantly help our 25 to even technically, but 25 through 29, it will take about $140,000 debt payment out of our general fund and move it over into our debt levy fund, which that in itself is great just in reducing that general fund levy. Just gives us space if we need something in the future. And then with the interest rate being where it is, stretching it out will end up costing us a little bit more over that 15-year stretch, but it sets us up for a lot easier budgets here in the next 5 years.
All right.
Can you do all of these? You have 5?
Yep. Yeah, 5 individual ones, but
I
think you guys could make a motion to
read
approve
them
all.
appropriately, or
I think we can probably, I mean, if you want,
can we approve all 5 as proposed by Callan?
Yep.
Make a motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Discussion or questions? All right, you can call it out on this one, Kellen.
Hovda.
Yes.
Yes.
Hammer. Kirkhammer. Schmidt.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, and thanks for the work with all that stuff.
Yep.
I think it'll be good.
President, so the pool project then, does that get this thing rolling then? Or once we approve the bond, then that gets the project rolling?
Once we are doing the background things right now with the pool project and getting it ready to go, but this will have the resolution, and then the next phase is actually getting the bond sale and all that through. Correct, Kellen?
Yes, and I think now that we have funding available, I think we
We
can keep pushing further in that.
start talking.
Yep.
That,
Yep.
right. Work that'll have to happen anyway.
And figuring all the logistics that we know could go along with it. Yes.
Yeah, because obviously that could affect a lot of what people like to do with the park district
Mhm.
next year. So
Very
the
much
sooner
so.
we can get that information out there, and that's good. So, all right, cool. Thank you. New business number 3, racket sports fees. Hi, Jared.
All right, Park Board President Commissioners, last year, September, October, took a deep dive into Cameron Indoor Tennis Center rates, and we adjusted rates, simplified it into four main categories. And we said that they would be reviewed and evaluated after the season. We did meet with a racket sports group last week, 2 weeks ago, about our rates and kind of the operation. And their suggestion was to look at lowering our rates, and it would increase the number of season passes we sell, activity at the facility. So I think we would agree to that to a point. So I think it's worth a try. I mean, we didn't sell a tremendous amount of season passes last year. So if this doubles our season pass outlook, I think that'll increase our revenue and get more people through the door. So the main four was the family season pass, individual season pass, student, and active military. So again, you can kind of see what we're proposing to go family from 900 to 650 for up to 4 family members, individual at 500 to 300, student and active military from 350 to 200. And then we are asking to add a $60 monthly membership or season pass. So for the people that are only here for a few months of the fall, or they head south to play pickleball and tennis, it'll give them a better opportunity to utilize the facility.
That's an individual monthly?
That is an individual per person season pass or membership for the month. Everything else stayed the same, and the only other caveat, we did authorize the purchase of a pickleball practice machine, like the tennis one. So you can use the pickleball machine to practice your game by yourself.
I can add to it too. I sat in on that meeting with the group, which was great that they asked, and they put together some good information and made some really good points. And we kind of talked about how I my goal, to speak for myself, but I'm guessing we all probably are there, is we want the facility used. I mean, we want people, when it's miserable out, to be up there using it and recreating and having a good time. And when we looked at the number of passes or memberships we sold last year, it was very, very small. So even like by doing, if we do this and we don't sell any more memberships, it's just a tiny fraction of dollars that we're going to be out. I don't think that's going to happen. If more are sold, heck, there's going to be added revenue to the park district, and more people are going to potentially be using it, which I think is good. I think they made some good points, and I think it's good that we're kind of listening to them as well and trying to find that spot that makes sense. So I appreciated them coming in. It was a good meeting, and I think that these changes are certainly worth giving a go for this season, which is almost here. It's kind of why I rushed it here.
Yep.
So
this is on a calendar basis then?
This is from October, from basically opening of the facility to the closing of the facility in May. Okay. So it just runs the actual Cameron Indoor Tennis Center season of fall 24, spring of 25. It does not carry over into the fall. So
7 months.
7 months.
8 months.
So till the end of April.
Under the leagues, it says SP
season pass holder, non-season pass
Gotcha.
holder.
Had a lot of things going through my mind there trying to figure out. Okay.
I know the other thing that they had talked about, another recommendation was changing like how many hours that you can book, and that it's really tough only having 4 courts, and this was, they were pickleball oriented for sure, right? Which is great. But we have to always make sure we have some tennis available. So it's hard to, how many hours there are in the day times the courts that we have available. think keeping that 2-hour max block is, I think, where staff kind of felt comfortable leaving it, and that's the reasoning behind that. And like I said, I think this is a great thing to try, and we'll see what happens. And because it's certainly growing, that's for sure.
And I think the only thing I really have to add is it's, like Jared said, with the numbers we put together last year, that we were going to review them at the end of the year. And I think that we have to do the same with the numbers that we're putting out there right now, is just seeing what works best. I think the other side of it is the good problem to have is there's not enough hours in the day to get everybody out there. So you might have to do some thinking outside of the box of in season just to see where we're at. But it was a good meeting. I think it was productive. And as Perry said, I think our goal of this park district is get as many people active as possible at a reasonable rate. So we'll see how this goes.
Anybody want to act on it? All right, got a motion?
I'll second it.
All right, Hammer, you can second that one. Any more discussion? Alan, why don't you call it? Since you're changing numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hammer.
Yes.
Kirkhammer.
Yeah.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thanks, Jared. Old business, we've done my 7, the ordinance update. Ellie, are you running with that?
Yeah, I can give on. Pete can step into if you guys have any specific questions regarding the ordinance language. We sat down with the city staff about 2 weeks ago and reviewed what we had put together at that point. It's now in the hands of city staff. I think we're moving in a good direction with that. We're setting up a meeting with them next week. We're going to try and sit down, or the week right after. And then we also sat down with our ordinance committee, and I'll let Mike and Justin make a comment on that as well. But I feel like we're moving in a really good direction. Once we have the ordinance set with the city of Minot, we'll take what we have with that ordinance, and then we will collectively get the ordinance that will come from the Minot Park District in order to get that other ordinance moving. So there's a few different things at play here. The other point I wanted to make is they're more than likely, because October 15th will come very quickly, and there's a few stars that have to align in order for us just to get this to you guys. We would like to have that preliminary ordinance to you for your guys' review on October 15th, our board meeting. And there's going to be a good chance that we'll need to have a special meeting in between that October 15th board meeting and that election date of November 5th. So then we can have another special meeting with whatever ordinance that we have. So we'll be seeing a lot of each other in the next 2 months, but that's kind of the timeline that I have in my head. And I'll let Mike and Justin give an update as well from their perspective if they would like to.
Yeah, as far as that meeting, we'd have to have a meeting after the election.
We would, yep. The only thing is if anybody, if we were able to pass it on October 15th, we could absolutely just.
I get, yeah. We have to have 2 readings.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So there's gonna be a lot of special meetings probably happening between our budget and this ordinance between now and November. When is it?
November 5th is the election.
November 5th,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So. But I guess I think it's going well. Pete's been doing a lot of work, guiding us quite a bit on the language, and we've had the last committee meeting. We had a lot of input and a lot of discussion and things. So I think it's going well. I don't know if Mike's got anything to add or not.
Oh, going well. Just the biggest ordinance have to get based on property tax.
Yep.
That's what we really got to get.
Yep. And I would see us possibly requesting a special meeting with the city of Minot after the election, so we know what ordinance that we're bringing forward. Yep. Exactly.
Excellent.
Just along that same note, Callan, can I have the mouse? Can you just pass it down? I did hand out to you guys kind of the presentation that I've been doing to user groups right now. It's been a hot minute since I did this. See if I can find it. So this is the presentation that I've been bringing out to different groups throughout the community. I'll go over it quickly with you guys, but I just wanted to make sure that you had kind of seen it as well. What I like to do with this is kind of just go through of how we got to the indoor facility study, our goals with the study, our stakeholder groups that we met with, and kind of how our priorities sat. Turf was number one, aquatics was number two. Aquatics was taken care of with the school bond issue a few years back, and a few other items in there. Talked about our public forum and input that we received there. Included the renderings that we have for the field house, the space that we will be holding, and then as well as the field house and what we can entail in there, our futsal fields, the 2 infields for baseball and softball, and how we can divide that up. Rendering for the indoor space. Go over some sales tax collection items with them as well. $6 million is the number that we have been going off of. And these are the numbers that you guys have already seen, but making sure that we're getting this information out to them and breaking down. Right now, a 40% reduction is, I think, one of the huge points in the 14 mills and covering those operational costs. The one thing that I really want to emphasize to you guys as well that I've included in this maintenance or in this PowerPoint presentation is that we want to hit on our maintenance and future projects as well. That the turf facility is obviously a huge part of what we're moving towards, but as we've sat here and talked about our board retreats, going to sales tax not only helps overall get to that turf facility, but it's more also about the maintenance of our facilities and other improvements that we need to get done. So I've included this slide and a few other of the future projects. We've talked about the Corbett Master Plan, Super Fun Site, Auditorium, Outdoor Rec, and a few other items. The one thing I added in here as well, if we move forward with the sales tax and we're able to have that as a funding option, I think a field analysis for us is going to be extremely important when we talk about the sales tax. Economic impact is a huge part of that. Talk about our facilities. We have Corbett, we have Hoven, we have the zoo, we have Mesa, we have the auditorium. We have all these facilities that are bringing economic impact to our community. And in talking with people throughout the state, I know Williston says they look at their sales tax when they have a big tournament and you see the bump. So in my reference to the field analysis, I think it's going to be important if sales tax becomes a reality for us, is that we're looking at our soccer fields, our baseball fields, our softball fields, and whether it's improvements or additions to those that we can bring in some larger tournaments. So, and then I just include Mesa. That would be a review as well in the future. And then just where do we go from here? Right now, this is really just an informational presentation because as we just talked about, we don't know what we're going after. So with this presentation, I'm just letting people know that we're looking at it, the excitement we have behind it, if they have questions. But I think it's important to note that it's not just for a turf facility, it's how we move forward as a park district. If it doesn't, we are in that maintenance mode like we've talked about for the next 5 to 7 years. So I know I went through it really quickly. Usually it lasts about 30 minutes, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a quick overview of what I've been out there talking about. And then if you guys had any questions in regards to that.
What kind of feedback have you gotten?
You know, overall, it's been maybe when they leave, it's not positive, but overall, it's been a really positive feedback. Questions of what are you doing if you don't have property tax? And from that point, I've just told them, you know, it has to be an official vote of the board, but really, we're just waiting for a direction we go, and the direction I think we're going is forward, regardless if property tax is there or not. But yeah, I think the other question was a few times, it's like, okay, so what are you going to do after the turf facility? What's the next big project? So that's why I kind of wanted to include some of those other things that master plans we have. It's the money that we don't have. So. And when we talk about other grant programs and things like that as well, I think it's good to include all those sponsorships. There's grants out there. There's some larger grants that our community have gotten before. If that would come back, we would certainly be applying for those as well.
Excellent. Any other questions for Ellie or Mitty or Hammer? Good. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Pass this down to
Get
Callan again.
cranking here as the calendar gets rolling, that's for sure. Other business? Any other business? All right, let's go to our alcohol permits. Good bunch of them from August.
Make a motion to approve all the alcohol permits.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, director's report. Ellie, do you have more? you wanna
Just
talk about?
a few things I'll go through here. We did attend NDRPA conference last week in Watford. Callan and I are heading to League of Cities the end of this week in Grand Forks. I have not attended this in the past. When Callan and I kind of looked at the agenda, when you talk about century code and things like that, they cover a lot more of that information at this, so we just found it important. Property tax is a huge topic there as well, so we can get some more information on that. Just a few of the committees or different committees and things that I've presented to. I have infrastructure committee that I presented to last Friday. I'm going to go to visit Minot board actually tomorrow morning. If there's any other groups or anything that you guys get word of, I would love to get it on my schedule. I think presenting to them early and then presenting to them again when we know exactly what we're going after is important, and to get that information out to as many people as we can. A few other things, I did apply for the Garrison Diversion Grant, and I requested funding for the Shields Complex Playground. So that would be the playground that's right across from our Redeemers that's in need of replacement. We do have some money in our budget for that, but this would just help get that to a higher dollar amount for us. Outdoor Rec Phase 2, that is ready to go, and we've already had some really great compliments on it. I know one question I've had from a mountain bike group is a few of the switchbacks are a little bit steep. They want to have a few conversations with us. That's the group that's been out at the Bison Trail as well. That they're a good group, a lot of trust in them. They want to sit down with us and just talk about ways that they think they can come in and help us fix those a little bit. So certainly open to that conversation. We'll be meeting with them, and then I'll be setting up a ribbon cutting for Phase 2 as well, just to get some, let people know that it's open. And we've already had a ton of people out there, but there's still some people that don't know it's open. So I'll get that date to you guys as well. We already talked about the MI7 press release that we'll be working on. And yeah, that's about all that I have. I'll take any questions you guys have, though.
Anything for Ellie? All right. Thanks, Ellie. Let's go to commissioner reports. Cliff, you can start. Nothing, Cliff. Justin?
I'm good as well, thanks.
Elsie? Mike?
I'm good right now.
Fine, I'll do it then. I think the audit, that's good. I know we've talked about it, that, and maybe this is ignorance on my part, but are we in a good spot when it comes to the IT situation for the park district? Do we have backup? Like, do we work with the city staff with that and their IT? Or, I mean, you guys feel comfortable with where that is, or is it worth looking into and making sure that if there was a whatever, a data breach or anything like that?
It's certainly a conversation that we've had a lot more often, I'd say, in the last 6 months to a year. We don't have a person dedicated to IT.
For sure.
Ashley has been able to take on a lot of things, but we also work with Pro IT a lot. But we don't have somebody in staff, and it's something that we've had the conversation of, okay, do we look to, get some estimates for that, to have it on somebody on retainer, just so there's somebody, because as we grow, computers grow, programming grows. So, it's certainly up for discussion. But I know when we talk about risk assessments as well, we have the Safety Council as a pretty good option for us. So it's something we can discuss with them. But yeah, no, it's been a conversation that we've certainly had.
No. Cool.
Yeah, and I would just add, most of the programs that have sensitive data and all that kind of stuff are all cloud-based that have their own. So I think it's definitely worth having a conversation to see what we can do to make it better, but I don't think it's a massive risk because of that.
Well, it's good to know. I guess I don't really give it a whole lot of thought. They should. I'm sure you guys think about it more than I do, definitely, but just came to the front of mind with the audit report.
When it's along with everything else is being more proactive than reactive.
Yeah, for sure.
You think of it when something happens and then, so.
Yeah, and then just the outdoor rec area, I drove out there again. I think it continues to look good. I had a gentleman email saying how much he appreciated what staff had done and continuing to improve it. So keeps looking really good out there. So good job by everyone on that. So all right, with that, look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
And a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, let's move on to the foundation meeting. Personal appearances. Any personal appearances? Meeting minutes from our August meeting. Need to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Cliff. And Mike with the second. Questions or comments? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have a bill, big one, $324,018 from Rolac. This is just the next for the African Plains. You guys can see it there in your packet. You would need a motion to pay it.
I'll make a motion to approve the bill for Rolac Contracting for $324,018.
All right, got a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. Call the roll. My bad.
Updike.
Yes.
Hammer.
Yes.
Kirkhammer. Schmidt.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Callan, anything on the statement you want to talk about?
Nope, I have nothing to add.
Okay. New business? Any other business? All right, look for motion to adjourn foundation.
Second.
And any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Thanks, everybody.